Welcome back, everybody, to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I am Devin.
And I'm Nick.
Amazing. Thanks for being here, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in to this not-so-special episode.
This is not WLTL.
No, it is not. It's WDYK! Hey. With Moose and the Nug.
I think we should get like a 1980s like radio show, like morning Chicago radio show.
Okay.
Like Man Cow in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, I think that could be us.
Have you listened to the morning show on 97.1 The Drive?
No.
It is wild. So 97.1 The Drive is a classic rock radio station here. And their morning show, I forget who it is, but they will call on Mondays. They will call their wives. It's two men in the morning show. They will call their wives and be like, "Hey, how was I rated this weekend?" And like the wife will give them a rating of like A, B plus, C. They don't think they ever get an A.
Of course.
And they just like be like, "Oh yeah, my wife's probably gonna give me a D because I didn't listen to what that lady said about like taking out the trash, or like I had to visit with my mother-in-law and that's just freaking sucked." And it was like, you just sound terrible. But I know there are so many boomers out there just be like, "Yeah, fuck my wife." It's just like, Jesus Christ.
It is the classic rock station,
right? So, exactly. Yeah. Which, by the way, they also play.
Yeah, fuck my wife.
They started to play like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters on the classic rock, and I just the amount of gray hair that just onto my head from that just hurt me.
Well, I was watching a TikTok, and I'll be honest about that, because sometimes I feel like we'll be like, I was reading an article, very much was not, but this guy basically goes on there and is talking about how millennials are like changing the way that we age.
Yeah.
Because like we look better for our age than like previous generations.
Definitely.
And then Gen Z try to clap back, and we're like, no, you look old for your generation. Because Gen Z loves to wear these like 90s like ruffled old man, and I'm just like, no, you look rough, girl.
Yeah.
Like anyway,
like,
I just thought it was interesting.
No, definitely. Like if you look at the early seasons of Seinfeld, like they're all like around like 30s. They're supposed to be in their 30s, and it's like, oh, you look terrible for being 30. And it's like, I mean, like, I know I'm no model, but like, hey, I look pretty good if I do say so myself, and I tell myself that I look good every morning in the mirror. But it's just like, damn, if I looked like George right now, that'd be it.
Well, he uses George as an example, and then he uses the cast of Cheers because it's like Frasier was like 27 and he looked rough, you know. And then this like one girl tries to come back at him in a Gen Zer, and is like, "No, you look 30," and he goes, "You proved my point because I'm 38."
Right.
He's like, "I am 38 years old."
I am almost 40.
Correct. Like, anyway, so I was like, I thought that was interesting that like us as a generation are like actually shifting the viewpoint of aging.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how we get onto that, but I'll just say that.
We were talking about classic rock and boomers.
Oh, right.
And them hating their wives.
Right.
It's really fucking weird.
How could I forget about that?
But classic rock actually kind of as a tie into my topic, weirdly, or at least how I'm introducing the topic.
Because I have nothing to do with that.
Kind of.
Okay.
We're getting there. So I wanted to talk about, how am I going to question this? Do I want to ask you this? No, I'm just going to go into it.
You're not going to ask what do you know?
No, I'm going to.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to. No, I'm going to say
the whole stick of our show.
I just didn't know how I was going to mold it in, but we're going to just go into it. So speaking of classic rock, before the British invasion of the 60s.
Yeah.
When rock and roll and other sorts of UK pop culture flooded over from across the pond, there was another kind of British invasion. Did you know that? And we're not talking about like 1776.
Oh, it was like how far back we going here?
I just did the Battle of New Orleans. We're done with that. We're going to be talking about the invasion of Oryctolagus cuniculus, or the European rabbit, the plague of Australia.
What?
What do you know about the Australian rabbit problem?
Oh, not a lot, but it was an offshoot of a episode of ours, The Great Emu Wars.
Exactly.
I heard there was a huge rabbit issue.
There was.
And that's all I have.
Yeah, that's what inspired me to do this episode. Because I brought it up in the emu. You should go back and listen to that one if you haven't. But that's why I was like, let's talk about the rabbit thing.
Look at us inspiring each other.
Look at that. Look at that. Good partnership.
Good partnership. Love it.
So, we're going to get into the Australian rabbit problem.
Yes.
They call it some people call it a plague.
Oh my God.
Right. I think plague is intense.
Correct.
I feel like plague is more of like a viral issue than just like I've got a bunch of rodents running around.
Well, and also like, were there any human casualties? Like I feel like
there might have been, but not directly from the rabbit. It's not like
they like overtook.
Right.
It's not,
right.
Like
it's not like the rabbit from Monty Python's Holy Grail.
Killer rabbit. Amazing.
But I think like consequences might have killed people from indirectly. But
okay, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So, the rabbit problem
set the scene.
Began long before the Great Emu War of 1932. Like I said, you should go check it out. And I'll also ping it here in the YouTube video.
Nice.
Just for those of you watching.
I like it.
The European rabbit was first introduced to the land down under in 1788.
Okay.
I'm not going to do this whole episode in Australian accent.
Fuck. I was like, we're on our way, baby.
They were brought over by the first fleet.
Okay.
This was the first set of ships that brought over the first group of British colonists and, more importantly, prisoners to Australia.
Sure. Okay.
The prisoners have nothing to do with this story. I just think it's, I'm going to say cool, but there's nothing cool about colonization. But I think it's cool that Australia was, like founded and colonized by prisoners. Because like in Alicia's episode, how she was saying like, oh, like was it Alicia's episode or was it your episode? I don't know. Where they were like, oh yeah, we're going to send prisoners over to America. Like we're going to send the prisoners over to America. We're going to send prisoners to Australia as like to serve out your sentence.
Oh, sure. I think that was Alicia's episode.
I think it was Alicia's episode.
But also, weren't there Aboriginals to Australia?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There was already a native folk in Australia.
Okay.
Which is why they colonized it, and like there's nothing cool about colonization.
Thank you. Can you put that on a hat? But like in like the wavy kind of like 70s like font, like there's nothing cool about colonization.
Yeah.
Because I can see like pins and a hat. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
So these rabbits were most likely brought along as either food or to be bred for food.
Got it. Okay. Or pets.
I guess.
You don't know.
At the start, when they were first brought over, they weren't much of a nuisance.
Sure.
Reports of their becoming a problem didn't really occur until 1827. And that was really only on the island of Tasmania.
Oh, okay.
Famous for their Tasmanian devils.
Son of a bitch.
All I can ever think of too is the Tasmanian devil in Space Jam when they're cleaning the gym and everyone just like spits.
Spit shine.
Spit shine.
Yeah.
And then the Tasmanian devil just like spins around and he goes, lemony fresh. Also, like in those in the early Looney Tunes cartoons, like Taz was a creature that often escaped like the zoos that like whomever happened to walk in the zoo was. Yeah, he was just like this villain essentially. He wasn't this lovable character. He was a terror
until Space Jam.
I think so. Until like that era of Looney Tunes.
Now, which Looney Tune would you say that you are? Taz?
No. That's a good question.
Who do you most closely relate to?
I know Allie always is. She always relates to Daffy Duck, which is like that fits.
Spot
on. I want to either say, oh no, actually I know exactly who it is. Foghorn Leghorn.
I said.
I was originally gonna go with either like Marvin the Martian or Sylvester the Cat. I was like, wait. There is one more out there that I relate to, and that's Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh yeah.
How about yourself?
No idea.
All right.
Wasn't a big Looney Tunes person, so I don't know. I'm not
no
that.
Looney Tunes. Okay. No Muppets. Tom and Jerry?
I mean, like, okay, sure. Like, I've seen them. Right. I just, like, didn't, like, get into the canon of.
Oh, my God. Okay. I used to watch so much Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry that I knew by the director or the producer of the episode. Like, in the intro title cards, I was like, oh, it's going to have this animation style. It's from, like, this era. That's how much I knew.
Wild. I just don't think we watched like Saturday morning cartoons, things like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's it. That's all I have. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no,
I feel like I disappointed you.
A little, but it's okay. I already said that I don't care about you since you said you don't care about the Muppets, so it's fine.
Do you think this is like a Wile E. Coyote, like Roadrunner situation?
Wile E. Coyote is another option for me.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, the rabbits.
So the rabbits. Oh yeah, they were. That problem didn't really come into Tasmania. That's where we were. That's where we got here. One newspaper remarked, this was in 1827. One newspaper remarked, quote, "The common rabbit is becoming so numerous throughout the colony that they are running about on some large estates by thousands."
Oh God.
End quote. Meanwhile, on the mainland, rabbits were still only being bred around households, with no reports of any wild rabbits running around. Still okay on the main continent.
Okay.
Islands getting overrun.
Heard.
Throughout the 1840s, it became common practice for people to raise rabbits at their household.
Sure.
This was for pets, for food, trading fur, etc.
Oh, sure.
Enclosures made of stone wall were used instead of cages to house these rabbits. So they were giving them a little bit more...
room
to move around.
That's nice.
Right?
I appreciate that.
It was becoming so common, actually, that rabbit theft even became common in court records at the time.
What?
People were just stealing rabbits, which is like a silly thing.
What a wild thing to steal. Yes.
Right? So this is all fine and dandy until sometime between 1857 and 1859, we started to get dumb. It is mentioned during this time that at least two people released rabbits into the wild, both of them releasing them for hunting sport. They're like, we used to go hunt rabbits all the time in jolly old England.
So like, why not do it here?
Bring it down under.
Ah, bitches.
One report, 1857, 1858.
Okay.
Alexander Buchanan decides to release a handful of rabbits into the wild. It isn't mentioned. But then in October 1859, Thomas Austin releases 24 wild rabbits as game for shooting parties.
What a mess.
Yeah, so it's funny that like Buchanan only is like, oh, it's just a handful of rabbits. Like it's not specific, but then Thomas Austin gets the finger pointed at him.
Right.
With it's precisely 24.
Yeah, it's weird. Also, why 24?
Well, that's all he was able to get.
Okay. Okay, fair.
I go into it a little bit later on of like why 24.
Sure.
But that's just what he had.
Okay.
So Thomas Austin is quoted saying, "The introduction of a few rabbits could do little harm, and it might provide a touch of home in addition to a spot of hunting." End quote.
Okay.
He's an idiot. He winds up getting the majority of the blame for this rabbit problem, as a study was done in 2022, so 2 years ago, as of recording, confirming that the entirety of Australia's feral rabbit population are descendants of these original 24 rabbits.
Oh, shit.
Right. So, like, that's what, like, he had those specific 24 Buchanan just releases a handful, but we can pin it down to those 24 somehow.
Crazy.
But it's crazy.
I also hope that these scientists have like a family tree for the rabbits.
It's just scrolls upon scrolls.
They've taken over like the entire wall of a factory.
Yeah, it started out like a beautiful mind, like just scrawling on the windows.
They named them all. Yeah.
So surprisingly, though, the rabbit population apparently stayed in some quasi check due to the native carnivores until about 1866. But by 1867, things were getting out of hand.
Oh, okay.
Natural predators were disappearing due to hunting, loss of habitat, etc.
Got it. Okay.
And the generations of rabbits were getting hardier. They were able to survive better.
Yeah.
And by this time, near the same property that Thomas had released those original 24, reports of 50,000 rabbits had been killed by hunters just 7 years later.
Imagine not just seeing 50,000 rabbits.
Right, yeah. So just in a time span of 7 years, you would just kill 50,000 rabbits.
Jesus.
Wild.
That's insane.
So, how did the rabbits do so well?
Yeah.
Glad you asked.
Took him right out of my mouth.
Thomas had released a hybrid rabbit.
Okay.
It was a cross between a gray rabbit and domesticated rabbit, which made them more suited for the conditions in Australia.
Okay. Did he do that intentionally? Did he know he was doing that?
Well, so Thomas was in Australia and he was like, I want it to feel like home.
Sure.
Sends a letter to his nephew in England. And he's like, hey, Neff, bring me some. He was like, bring me some rabbits, some birds. He had like a grocery list of things to bring over so he could hunt.
Okay.
His nephew was like, well, shit, I only can get like 13 gray rabbits. I somehow can't get the other 9 or 10 or whatever.
There's a scarcity and
I don't know what was wrong with his nephew. So he was like, I'm going to supplement with other rabbits, domesticated rabbits.
Sure.
And that's what he sends over. And the time they come over, rabbits do what rabbits do.
Right.
And they breed and make a hybrid rabbit.
Now, are the gray rabbits the floppy-eared rabbits?
No. So
that's a different type of rabbit.
Wild rabbits will have ears pointed up.
Oh, yes.
So they can hear predators. Typically a domesticated hare or domesticated rabbit. Hares and rabbits are different, by the way. Typically a domesticated rabbit will have their ears down and be floppy and cute.
Got it. So that's only for domesticated rabbits.
I'm pretty sure.
Got it.
Fact check me.
I heard.
Yeah, so that's where we get these hybrid rabbits.
Got it.
Austin and his nephew. Weird.
Got it.
So these hybrid rabbits are able to thrive in the conditions of Australia. And these conditions are actually great for rabbits to thrive in.
Okay.
There are mild winters, which means that rabbits can breed all year round.
Oh, yeah.
And then the vast new farmland being created on this land changes the environment from woodlands to acres of low vegetation, which is perfect for rabbits.
Yeah.
So, within 10 years' time, it was noted that you could probably hunt 2 million rabbits annually, and there wouldn't be any noticeable effect on the population.
2 million?
Yeah, you could pop off 2 mil rabbits every year, and they'd be fine. Isn't that fucking wild? Like you don't think of them being such a nuisance, but like once you put them in a place that they had never existed, nature hasn't figured out how to balance it.
That's crazy.
And that's the problem with invasive species.
Also the fact that a rabbit is an invasive species.
Right.
That's crazy.
Because like you and I, we see them fairly regularly. And it's like, okay, yeah, the hawk, the coyote, the fox will all take care of their population. Yeah. Right. Nope.
They just ran rampant.
Yeah.
That's bananas. Truly, 2 million. Okay. Keep going.
Right.
Wild.
So, with their vast numbers, the destruction these rabbits caused is still felt today. But by 1887, the New South Wales government had enough. They were like, fuck this. We're going to put a reward of £25,000 to come up with a systematic method to exterminate these rabbits. That, in parentheses, like with little asterisks, that hasn't been thought of before. So you can't just say like, oh, we'll shoot them. Give me my £25,000.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, no. You have to come up with something clever and that'll actually fucking work.
I also just imagine seeing people like with like scuttling around, like trying to capture with like nets, like
just like big sheets to drive them away. And the rabbits are just like, what the fuck?
What is happening? Right.
Part of the destruction that these rabbits caused was overgrazing, which caused a massive depletion in natural resources.
Yeah.
So the rabbits initially were eating the low vegetation, and then once that ran out, they would eventually eat the bark and leaves of young trees, preventing those trees from developing and growing.
Okay.
So from there, because the rabbits were consuming all of the native plants and any of the farmland plants, this left the topsoil exposed, making it vulnerable to erosion.
Oh.
And it can take hundreds of years to naturally regenerate this topsoil. So now you just have this dirt in this land that's not good for growing any crops or any natural vegetation.
Yeah.
And then that can also be a cause for flooding and other issues as well.
Okay.
So how do we get control of the problem? How do we stop the rabbits?
There's some guy out there like with a gun who's just like rocking in a rocking chair, like going insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me the rabbits.
Right.
Give me the rabbits.
And Bugs is absolutely at the helm of this entire operation. Right, exactly.
So hunting, obvious choice.
Correct.
But it wasn't very super effective against larger populations.
Yeah.
You can only shoot so many rabbits. However, during the depressions, multiple, of the 1890s and 1930s, as well as during wartime for both world wars, hunting rabbit became a great way to feed families, feed the families and the farm animals as well.
Sure.
And then add extra income to the household, selling and exporting the pelts and frozen meat.
Okay. Good business. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Might as well use it.
Still an issue, though.
Still an issue. Another way was ripping, plowing, fumigating, and blasting the rabbit warrens became popular on bigger farmsteads.
The rabbit warrens?
Warrens. Oh, yes. So rabbit nests are called warrens.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. They're a series of tunnels and rooms, essentially, in these rabbit-made caves. Tunnel system that are called warrens.
Interesting.
So you can have a whole family of rabbits in there.
That's crazy. Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we would, there was ripping, plowing, fumigating, and blasting to get rid of them. Ripping was something that, because like plowing, obviously you're plowing the fields.
Sure.
Getting rid of the warrens, fumigating, putting gas and other stuff in there, blasting, explosives.
Yeah.
All kind of self-explanatory. But ripping, I was like, what the fuck is ripping? That's weird. Ripping is when a bulldozer or tractor drags sharp tines over the warrens, which in turn dismembers and then may also bury the rabbits alive.
Oh my God.
Right. It gets nasty. Like already like poisoning them and like blowing them up is insane. But then just dragging like just barbed wire essentially through the earth and just...
That's so sad. Like, right? I get that it's an issue.
It's a huge problem, but then it's like, oh, you think of a little rabbit.
Right.
It's like, oh, God.
They're so innocent.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Right?
I hate that.
And now we get into poison.
Yeah. Jesus.
Poison, of course, common for any pest issue out there. Is,
always my go-to.
Love poison and things.
Love poison.
The poison is, of course, a common solution to destroying the local population of rabbits.
Sure.
They actually used a specific type of like phosphorus, like phosphate combination chemical.
Okay.
And distributed it using poison carts. So like, you know, like a seed spreader that you push around.
Yeah.
That, but drawn by a horse and just distributing this phosphate chemical. And
oh my God,
what's crazy though is like this, because it's phosphorus. It's a combination. So it's if it's in clumps, it's very flammable. Because like if you light phosphorus on fire, it is very dangerous. It's very bright. It's terrible.
Yeah,
very flammable. So if it's in clumps, very flammable. And also just the fumes of this phosphate chemical were terrible for the farmers.
Yeah, I would imagine.
You know, it's fine.
Hence, maybe some casualties.
Yeah. This technically was the most effective solution at the time.
Sure.
It was the most effective with the least amount of effort because you were just like your carts were distributing the chemical.
Sure.
It was really only temporary solution because rabbits are so mobile that they will either leave or they will come back once the chemical is washed away.
Yeah.
Eventually. Now here's a surprising part: fences. Fences are a pretty effective method of control.
What a wildly simple solution.
Yeah, it's just so elegant.
Have you thought of a fence?
The trick, though,
tell me more,
was making sure the fence went deep enough underground and was high enough.
High enough.
So the fence needed to go deep enough underground to prevent burrowing.
I get that.
Rabbits burrow. But then high enough to stop them from jumping over it.
Got it. My first reaction was that they learned how to like ladder themselves.
Like ants making a bridge. Or they just take a sheet and just go,
Correct. I was just like, oh, but no, that makes sense. Like jumping over the fence. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But weirdly, this helped create rabbit-free areas, and the difference was dramatic. You would have arid land on one side and then lush vegetation on the other. Assuming that these fences held up, there wasn't any damage.
Right.
I think there still are like teams of people patrolling fences because they're still around. These rabbit fences are still around, patrolling them to make sure that they are in good repair. There's no damage, all this other stuff going on.
So this is still like not like a huge issue, but it's still like prominent.
It's still a big issue. It's very surprising. You don't like. It's not going to make the headlines of CNN, but like, I'm sure the folks in Australia are like, fuck this.
Along with all of their other wild bullshit down there.
Right.
Between emus and fox bats and
Exactly. And those giant spiders that just wind up in your house somehow.
Oh, I hate it so much.
The hunter spiders, I believe.
And they're like, oh, just check your shoes every morning. No, I don't want to live somewhere where I need to check my shoes in the morning.
I am going to seal them.
Right.
Every morning.
Every morning.
In a vacuum.
Horrifying.
So the fences, you could also use them to fence off the water sources from the rabbits, causing them to die of thirst during heat waves. So like you would fence off your water source of your farm or the pond or whatever, and then the rabbits wouldn't have any water for the summer or whatever, and there they go.
That's also kind of sad.
I know. It's wild.
I don't know why the ripping and the dehydration is the worst, but it's just
like
kind
torturous
of is. Yeah.
In a way. Like, hunting is fair.
Sure.
Poison's not great.
Yeah.
But just like these almost like inhumane ways of taking down a lesser being. It's
I
like,
don't
oh,
like
God.
that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah. In getting back to fences, this is my last fence fact.
Thank you.
I think. In Queensland in 1893, a rabbit-proof fence was first erected. And as of 2021, that fence now runs 555 kilometers.
It's still around.
It's still around.
Wow.
And I might be wrong on this. I didn't write it down, but I'm remembering. I believe this same fence has also been connected to what they call the dingo fence.
Okay.
To keep dingoes out from their sheep pastures and stuff like that. And that fence, the dingo fence plus this rabbit fence, create like one of the longest man-made structures.
Really?
Like, it goes like all the way across Australia, and it's just so fucking long that it's made the list of longest man-made structures.
That's crazy.
Yeah, fact check me.
Heard.
So, all of these things are working, but not as effective as we want them to be. So things are getting desperate. What's the next step? Biological warfare. Didn't
we get that with the phosphorus?
That's chemical warfare.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. This is a different Geneva Convention, which I was going to
Geneva Convention,
which I was going to bring up, and then I was like, wait, hold on, the Geneva Convention hasn't happened yet. We don't have rules against biological warfare. We can do whatever we want, baby.
Go.
Oh, fuck. All right. So we're getting into the biological warfare. Louis Pasteur was interested in the 25,000 pounds reward offered by the New South Wales government. So in 1888, he suggested and tested infecting the rabbits with fowl cholera. Fowl like the bird, F-O-W-L. Chicken cholera. And so this was like the first, like, I don't know if it was the first instance or it was at least the first major instance of introducing chemicals or biological stuff into this.
Yeah.
Now, while rabbits did die from it, the disease never spread to healthy test subjects. So you could infect them and they would die, but it wouldn't go anywhere else.
Sure. Okay.
Which is probably why it's called fowl cholera, because it only infects birds. Who'd have thought?
Crazy.
So after several other attempts and studies from different groups, we finally see some success all the way in 1950.
Oh my God.
So it's 27, we'll call that 62 years later.
Okay.
Ish. So from there, we start trying out this myxoma virus. And that was introduced to the rabbit population that caused their numbers to drop from 600 million, which is where we're at in 1950, all the way down to about 100 million.
Okay.
Huge success.
Yeah.
However, genetics are strong. Evolution is real.
And they overcame it.
By 1991, after developing a natural resistance to the virus, the population bounced back to somewhere between 200 and 300 million. So not all the way up to the 600 million mark. Mm-hmm. We added another 100, 200 million to the rabbit population, but still, that is a vast amount of rabbits running around.
See, but this is what's happening, is that us doing this whole biological warfare thing is like how we get COVID. You know what I mean? Like, can't we just like round them up? You know what I mean? Just kidding.
No,
but just, like,
I get it. Well, it's like scientists concerned today of like, oh, we're using so much antibacterial soap and hand sanitizer that we're going to create a super germ that's going to kill us all. It kind of happened a little bit, but
if you remember,
we'll find out what happens next time.
Yeah. Insane.
The next season. Jesus. So we see the numbers climb back up, and we're like, son of a bitch.
Right.
The Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, I never have to say that again, thank God, but I'm still going to abbreviate it to the CSIRO, tested a new virus for, they were testing it for 3 years, called rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus, or RHDV, which is a type of calicivirus.
Okay.
If I'm saying that right, CALICIVIRUS. So many I's. I like to spell it for people in case they want to look it up on their own, and I know I'm saying it wrong.
Fair point.
So the RHDV causes rabbit hemorrhagic disease, RHD.
Okay.
Who knew the virus would cause the disease?
Isn't that crazy?
So RHD is a highly infectious and lethal form of viral hepatitis.
Oh my God.
That causes liver inflammation, and has a 70 to 100% mortality rate.
Oh my God.
Which is, like, I can't fathom that. Like, one, why isn't it just like 85% mortality rate? But like, whatever.
Why couldn't we just find the median?
But, you know, like a classic sci-fi horror novel or The Winter of 2019, the RHDV escapes quarantine on Wardang Island in South Australia.
Naturally.
So we were testing it. We had a quarantine to test all of this. It gets out. Classic.
Which, how? Did someone take it home? Did someone, you know what I mean? Like, that's my question. Like,
that was the question in 2019 as well.
Well, that was because someone ate a bat, remember?
Right, of course.
That's you forget. Yeah.
So by October of, I don't have the answer to you. Like, okay. Sorry, there's
That's
nothing.
Okay.
It's just fine. Got out.
Probably top secret.
Right. Or it was just like, yeah. Oops, I left the cage open, because like they were gonna use it on the rabbits anyway. So like, why do I need to keep a quarantine if I'm gonna want it out there?
Fair. Is this lethal to humans at all?
No.
Okay.
I get into like what it might happen. Like, I get into
got it. Okay.
Concerns in a minute.
Heard.
So by October of 1995, you and I are alive by now.
We are.
There were records of rabbits infected with RHDV on the mainland in northeastern South Australia.
Okay.
So it had spread from the island of Wardang to the mainland.
Which is, how does it jump? You know what I mean?
It goes all the way to the top. It's a conspiracy!
All the way to the
CIA! And as viruses do, in just a few months, the virus has spread to Victoria, New South Wales, the Northern Territory, and Western Australia, which is pretty much all of Australia.
Sure.
I think.
Sounds about right.
So, this new virus was and continues, it's still around, to be very effective, but of course has had some side effects and new developments.
Okay.
Side effects are the worst part.
Right.
In 2017, a newer version of the virus was released across the country at, like, I think the website said like 600 marks around the country.
Okay.
Or continent, that was supposed to be even more lethal and contagious than the original version.
Oh my God. Okay.
To the point where owners of domestic rabbits were advised to vaccinate their animals, their pets.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like, oh shit, this might kill your pet. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Don't keep rabbits.
Yeah, they're pissed about it.
Right. To the point where, like, this was getting so crazy to the point where conservation efforts were concerned with this virus that it might affect other endangered predators.
Yeah.
That are higher up on the food chain, either by infecting them or reducing available food sources.
Well, I was going to ask, like, while it might not have lethal effects for humans, like, even as these predators prey on rabbits, like, can they be infected in some way?
I don't think so.
Got it.
That's like what the conservation effort people were concerned about.
Right.
But I think by the time, like, it goes through the rabbit system and starts killing the rabbit, it's diluted enough for a larger prey creature that it won't, like, there isn't enough virus or poison in the rabbit that it will affect a larger creature.
Got it. Okay.
Or it just doesn't attack the predator's DNA or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
But it was part of it too was like, oh, the predators are so used to all these rabbits, now they won't have any food. Right. That was a concern as well. But like millions of rabbits are still around, so I don't know.
I think we'll be fine. I think it'll be fine.
And so the government was like, hey, vaccinate your domestic rabbits. So a vaccine exists, but there is no cure for RHD. So if you don't vaccinate your pet and they contract RHD, they'll need to be euthanized. Or suffer, I guess. Right, it's not fun. It's not
either
great.
way. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the cost of the vaccine isn't cheap either. So
they put it on the consumer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? You guys are the ones that released it. And now I have to get a vaccine to save my pet and I have to pay for that?
Well, it was technically the CSIRO that released it, not the government.
Well, the CRISO should put up some money.
Right. I said I wasn't going to bring them up again, but I'm glad I abbreviated them.
Same.
So the vaccine isn't cheap, which if you're doing it like once for your one rabbit, fine. But for the weirdly still existent rabbit farms,
oh my god,
it's a little expensive,
a little pricey.
I don't know if they do a bulk discount or not.
Get it by the box.
Right, it's Costco vaccine. It's fine.
It's just a jug that they pour in the rabbit's liquid.
Right, exactly. So this caused the price of the vaccine caused the number of rabbit farms to drop from 80 to 4 between 2004 and 2014 in Australia.
Jesus.
Right. And because of this, because of the lack of farms and the cost of the vaccine, rabbit meat has become more expensive in the market down there. Because of the combined with the decrease in the farms, rabbit meat is now a rarity. I didn't think of that at all.
If you would have said, what's the weirdest thing you think that comes out of this story? Not that.
Yeah, right. Because like I don't come across rabbit meat in restaurants very often. I have.
Yeah.
But it's not often enough.
Right.
Where I'm like, this is a big problem.
Right. Huge issue.
Right.
But now anytime I see rabbit, I'm going to be like,
this is a delicacy in Australia.
Man. Did you know?
Now you know.
What a way to entertain my dinner guests.
Exactly. That's what this whole podcast is about.
Truly.
Entertain your dinner guests. So according to Rabbit Free Australia, they have a website. Go look them up. The current population of the eastern rabbit is standing at 200 million. So we're still having an issue.
Up there, yeah.
I was just kind of tickled about this website. The Rabbit Free Australia. Their tagline is Bilbies, not bunnies. Bilbies, Bilbies. Bilbies are native Australian marsupials that look like a combination of rabbits, shrews, and mice.
Interesting.
I rate them a cute out of 10. They're funny looking. They're funny looking.
Oh, okay.
Here, I'll pull up a picture. All right, so this is what these are little bilbies.
Oh, their ears.
Right?
They're so cute.
Yeah, like the nose of a shrew. They are
very shrew. Yeah. I would say they're more similar to like a shrew / mouse than a rabbit, but I see it in the ears and the tail.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So they're driving a whole campaign of Bilbies, not bunnies. And that is to replace the Easter bunny with an Easter bilby.
Because aren't they the ones that started the Easter rabbit? Isn't that
the Australians didn't?
No. I'm pretty sure.
Originating among German Lutherans.
Oh. I thought it was more prominent in Australia, and that's why in Jack Frost, Hugh Jackman plays the Easter Bunny.
Oh, that I have no idea, but it comes from Germany. Maybe we'll do a minisode on it.
Cute. Watch our minisodes.
Yeah, so they wanna replace the Easter Bunny with the Easter Bilby.
Okay.
To bring awareness to this, the bilby is actually endangered. There were two different types of bilbies. There was the greater bilby and the lesser bilby. The lesser being smaller, the greater being bigger. The lesser is extinct. The greater is on the endangered list. And so this Rabbit Free Australia group is like, let's bring awareness to the bilby and bring it back.
I heard. Okay.
Their vision right on their homepage is, quote, Australian landscapes that are free of their most notorious pest, the European wild rabbit. Like, they're really gunning for it.
They really hate the rabbits.
Now, Australia has had quite a few problems with various animals. Rabbits weren't the only animal that has caused such problems across this continent.
A ruckus, if you will.
Yeah, a ruckus. A ruckus. There was, of course, the Great Emu War.
Correct.
But emus are ultimately native to Australia, so, like, what are you going to do?
Right.
European colonists also introduced mice and cats to the continent, both wreaking havoc on the environment.
Oh.
Where to the point where, like, they call this a rabbit plague. They also call it a mice plague. And domestic cats have just, like, killed a bunch of, like, there are, what did it say? It was like, there are a couple million, like, household cats being kept as pets, and then there are just slightly less amount of wild feral domestic.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't know if I can still call them domestic cats, but, like, feral cats running around Australia.
This makes me feel like if I go to Australia, I'm just going to see, like, rabbits and cats everywhere.
And mice.
And mice about.
Right. So the moral of the story, European colonists ruined everything. And that's how I'm ending today's episode.
But did anything come down to the Buchanan family for, like, fucking Australia with rabbits?
No, not that I know of.
They're like, oh, we can devolve.
It was just
what a silly mistake.
Yeah, like, what are we going to do? Like, they probably changed their name. They're like, oh, shit, we're not the Buchanan. We're not Austin anymore.
So we can't scratch it.
Exactly. No, but there was a thing where it was like, oh, the last rabbit plague, because, like, the last rabbit plague era, I guess, was in 2011, I believe. So, like, recently, there was another uptick in the population.
This is never going to get solved.
And so no, I don't think so. I mean, it's like...
like, until Australia falls into the ocean.
Right. Well, it's like our problem with the spotted lanternflies, the Asian carp.
Yep.
What else is there? Oh, stink bugs are technically an invasive species here. They come from Asia.
Which, did the carp eventually become an issue, or did we pause that? I remember it was, like, on the rise to become an issue.
Oh, I think it's an issue. It's a full-fledged issue.
It's a full-fledged invasive issue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yikes.
Yeah. And then the python in the Florida Keys.
What python?
The Burmese python is just being terrible in all of Florida, technically, to the point where, like, there's a bounty on their heads. Like, you can bring in a bin full of pythons and you get paid for it, I think.
What? The fact it's 2024 and we still have, like, bounties on animal. Like, that's crazy.
Right?
That's crazy. Well,
so invasive species are crazy.
Bananas. And also, thank you for telling us this story, because no matter what Australian story it is, it's always just going to be bananas.
It's going to be what?
Super dramatic and, like, absolutely just, like, at any turn, like, it could go any direction.
Right. No, Australia, I feel like, has, like, as crazy of a history as America has, I feel like Australia just, like, you just turn it up a couple notches.
100%.
Because, like, you still have, like, Australian cowboys. You can do just, like, we mentioned the secession of Australia, of Western Australia, in your emu episode. I want to do an episode on that because I'm like, what the fuck? Why were they trying to secede? What's going on? Like, I just know so little about Australian history. It's like, what the fuck were you guys doing down there? It's all the prisoners.
I just have zero interest to go.
I would go.
Maybe, like, a layover to go to New Zealand.
Fair.
I just
you
like...
want to go to Bondi Beach? That's the only place I know how to say.
Perth.
Perth.
What do you got? I just, like... it's the bugs. It's the fact that everything's, like, an extra large blank.
Yeah.
I hate it.
It's like, I want a supersized spider. Get out of here.
Get out of here. All right.
Well, thanks for sticking with me and listening along. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing.
Yes.
And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and follow us at WDYK_podcast. You can find us everywhere that you want.
Yes, you can. And if we're not there, sorry.
Let us know. We'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, bye.
All right, bye.